Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the new look, revived Metaworld News. This is going to be our new news program, looking at the a bit of VR, and also I'm getting an echo already. I'm not sure we're right here. I think I need to mute something in the background. Just give me a second while I get everything. I'm going to start again. This is a new show, or rather, it's a revival of an old show. So we're experimenting a bit here. We're also coming to you via YouTube, which means that all of you who subscribe to my channel on YouTube will be actually getting this live instead of just the replay we normally put up in a few hours' time. Now, Metaworld News used to be, at one time, believe it or not, we ran it for a couple of months as a daily news headlines, 10, 15 minutes. But we've decided to bring it back, mostly so that we can deliver news to you in a quick format and sort of get it out of the way and then proceed later in the evening here with the Inworld review, which will now be principally a discussion show, the open-ended discussion it's always been. So as far as the news is concerned, we will possibly look at a bit of VR news, but basically what our concern here is with social spaces, immersive worlds, and of course the wonderful, wonderful hypergrid that is OpenSim by its generic name, and stuff associated with that. And we're going to be breaking down the show into segments, although today you will be seeing it all concurrently live, since this is the first one we're doing. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to my colleague here, but I'm Mark Burns, by the way. Yes, you knew that, didn't you? I'm going to hand over to my colleague here. You know her as well. She's Maria Korolov from Hypergrid Business. And she's going to start us off with the main news of the week, so to speak. And while she's doing that, I'm going to switch the slide behind us. And here we go. News headlines from Maria.
Well, thank you, Mel, for that introduction. I'm happy to be here. Again, my name is Maria Korolov. I'm the editor of Hypergrid Business, and I'm also really excited about this format. I'm hoping that it will make it easier for people to watch the show, to find the show on YouTube, and to share the show with other people who might be interested, and also make it easier for me to embed segments of the show on my website to highlight what's going on out there. So,
and just interrupt. I mean, our viewers are going to have to forgive the amateurish nature of this first one, I think. But your lips aren't moving. Oh.
Well, that's because I am. I don't know why it's working. I will try to get that fixed. Meanwhile, I will continue talking over that, and until hopefully it kicks in. Okay, so I think, hey, I think that kicked in.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for pointing that out, Mel. Okay, so the big news this week was that I went through and I analyzed the statistics for 2017 to do a year in review of OpenSim. And the story is up. It's on our website. And you should see the first slide up behind me now about active user growth in OpenSim. There it is. It's coming right up. So this is the total active users on the public OpenSim grids. And we are now at a record high of more than 35,000, up from around 12,000 in 2010. So we've been growing, we've tripled pretty much over the past 6 years. So nice job for OpenSim. However, the rate of growth has dropped off quite a bit since last year. As you can see in the chart behind me, last year saw a big jump. There were more than 10,000 more active users at the end of 2015 than the start of it. This year, we gained just 2,400 new active users. So it's still growing, but it's growing at a much slower pace than it grew last year. The biggest, fastest growing grids were all city, which gained more than 1,000 active users. Now, some of you may not have heard about All City. It's a Portuguese language grid, and it ranked the top grid in our annual grid survey, which we ran this fall. It also has a very popular Facebook page, and its videos are getting hundreds of views when they're posted. So this is a pretty active and popular grid. And I think that one of the reasons that they've been growing, among all the other stuff that they do, is that AviWorld, which was previously popular with Portuguese language residents, has had its share of troubles over this past year. And people need someplace to go. And it looks like they all went to All City. Sinful Grid, which was in second place, it gained 440 active users, also benefited from the demise of AviWorlds, since one of the people who was running AviWorlds and left took his grid, Skylife Grid, and merged it into Sinful Grid. The DigiWorlds was in third place with 400 active users. They have been growing strong. They launched early last year in 2015, and they're founded by the guy who founded Third Rock Grid, one of the oldest grids in OpenSim. And it came out really strong, nice low-cost regions, great support, great reputation, and it's been doing really, really well. Another grid, so in fourth place was Metropolis, which is a nonprofit German language grid. And then Genesis Metaverse, another grid which came out of the whole AviWorlds fiasco, gained 362 active users. And then rounding off the top 10, there's Kitely, the Adult Grid, Lost Paradise, Dream Nation, and Third Life Grid. And you can get links to all these grids in the report, which is on hypergridbusiness.com. There's also been some growth in registered users this month. Now, looking at the raw data, we just passed 500,000 users, and it doesn't look like too impressive a growth rate. We gained 18,000 new registered users. Last year, we gained 80,000 new registered users, so it seems like it dropped off a little bit. But that's because one of the biggest and oldest OpenSim grids, Avination, is down for server migration and has been down for a few months. And it has more than 80,000 registered users on all of its own. So if we take Avination out of the stats and take AviWorlds out of the stats, we actually gained 99,000 registered users this past year, which is a record high and a good show OpenSim. The grids that registered the most active users, Kitely gained more than 24,000, Inworlds gained more than 23,000, OS Grid gained 6,000, Adult Grid gained almost 6,000, Virtual Brazil gained 5,000, another grid that's benefiting from the AviWorld stuff as Brazilian users are looking for a place to go. And other top 10 grids were Island Oasis, Metropolis, Great Canadian Grid, DigiWorld, and All City when it comes to registering new users. Now, registering new users doesn't necessarily translate to more active user numbers, because just because someone registered doesn't mean they're going to be spending a lot of time on the grid, or maybe some of the older users are leaving the grid because of support issues or high land prices or some other reason. So the two don't correlate, but it does correlate to a grid's marketing efforts and outreach and its brand name and reputation, how many new users it's able to bring in. This was the first year that Kitely registered more new users than Inworlds. Kitely is an on-demand, cloud-based grid. It's Hypergrid enabled. Inworlds is a traditional closed grid, kind of like a Second Life kind of grid. Inworlds and Kitely, both commercial grids, both spend quite a bit on marketing their grids and have good name brand reputations and bring people in. And this was the first year that Kitely has registered more users than Inworlds for the whole year. However, Inworlds has been making a little bit of comeback the last 3 months. Its new user registration numbers have gone up again. So it looks like it's getting back on track. I also looked at the land area, and again, the raw numbers don't show the whole picture. In the raw numbers, the total number of regions actually fell from 71,000 to 66,000. And part of that was due to Avination and Aviworlds dropping off the stats. But the single biggest impact was that a virtual world grid. It took down nearly 20,000, the equivalent of nearly 20,000 regions because of some technical issues. And those regions haven't been brought back up yet. These are mostly scenic regions, but still land. So it looks like the grid land went down more than it has because of that one drop. If you discount it, the total land area of the OpenSim grids actually increased by the equivalent of 15,000 regions. So a lot of that was just that one thing. The OS, and now you can see the chart behind me. OS Grid gained the most regions with more than 6,000 new regions, then Kitely, then Lost Paradise, DigiWorlds, and Genesis Metaverse. Of those four, the biggest one, OS Grid, that's also the only nonprofit in the top 10 list. And people can connect home-based grids for free, so which is very appealing to people who have regions. And there's also a lot of third-party providers selling regions on the grid, and because of the competition, that drives prices down. There were a lot of grids that closed this year. I counted 98 different grids that closed down. Some of the biggest ones were Virtual Dream, Avi Brazil, Sim Valley, Cyberface, Virtual Life, Genesis, Eduland, MathLife, Avaris, and JJIE Virtual World. They all had more than 100 active users a month, and I'm sure they will be missed by their users. Some of the grids folded into other grids. Clutterfly World, owned by Linda Kelly, was a very popular grid last year and is now part of the Metropolis grid. And Loft Virtual Worlds and Kia Nation are all stopped having their separate grids and are now part of the DigiWorlds grid. We also had 55 new grids born this year, and I have a list of a lot of them. And obviously the most visible one is All City, which gained all that land and everything, and users, even though it was only founded earlier this year. So pretty good show for All City. And so that is the roundup of the news. Another statistic that I just pulled up. I don't have a story on this, but so it's just for you guys. You're gonna have that little preview of it. Is the growth in OpenSim? Is the growth in the readers on Hypergrid Business itself? And I don't know if, I guess Mal hasn't been able to get that chart, so maybe I'll show that chart next week. But it just goes shooting up like a firework over the past few months. So that was pretty exciting for me personally. It's nice to see so many people interested in what we have to offer. Other OpenSim news coming up: the Canadian Sun, a newspaper on a Great Canadian Grid, will be sponsoring a St. Patrick's Day parade. And that's open to participants from all the different grids who want to hypergrid over. And they can have a float, or they can just watch the parade on St. Patrick's Day. OpenSim Embassy had its grand opening in Second Life on Wednesday. And they had a lineup of performers. And their goal is to help Second Life users migrate to OpenSim, especially people who are concerned about either land prices or about the coming of Sansard, Second Life's new platform, and what that's going to mean for continuing investment in Second Life itself. So they are promoting the awareness of OpenSim grids, and if you have a grid, you can have informational kiosks in this embassy and provide information to people who are interested in finding out more about OpenSim, so they know about your grid too. And the information for the contact information for the group is up there in the article. Now I mentioned DigiWorlds quite a few times, and that was one of the big stories this week also, was Genesis Metaverse switching over to DigiWorlds hosting. They were previously both a grid and a hosting company, and they came out of the fallout of AviWorlds. And they've had some issues with backups and servers and uptime and hacking, and they've shut down their hosting operation. All their hosting clients moved over to DigiWorlds, and now Genesis Metaverse has moved over to DigiWorld itself, and they're saying that it's going to free up their resources to work on cool stuff while DigiWorlds handles the back-end infrastructure. As a result, their prices are going to go up. So they're going to be on the grandfathered prices until the end of the month. So if you want a 20,000 prim region, it's currently about $6 a month. In January, it'll go up to $15 a month. This is still a bargain. The average region price in OpenSim for a 15,000 prim region is $20. So even at 15, it's still a pretty good deal. And with DigiWorlds hosting them, you can count on a lot of stability, performance, backups, good support, and all the other stuff that DigiWorlds has become known for. If you have news for the monthly stats report, please email me at maria@hypergridbusiness.com, and we'll get that in. We're going to be getting that out this week. This is the first month we're doing an automated stats gathering, where if you don't have a good stats page, we might not include your grid in the report. And next month, we'll definitely won't include your grid in the report. And to help people out, a couple of grids have posted information about how to set up a stats information page. And I've been sharing that both in the comments on Hypergrid Business and in various Google Plus communities. And if you want to know more information about that, just email me. There's a script you can use that would give full grid stats for your grid. And my email again is maria@hypergridbusiness.com. And that is the end of my OpenSim news segment. Mal, back to you.
One, two. Well, rapidly unmuting his mic. Thank you for that, Maria. And very concise it was too. Okay. Now I'm going to hand over to briefly to James Outloud, who's sitting at the side of our studio here, for some developer news, anything sort of happening in the developer front from the OpenSim core team mostly. So over to you, James.
All right, Mel, thanks. Is this sort of like the weather desk? Am I over to the side doing the weather during the report?
So hopefully your camera is on yourself.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. We need to have a screen behind him next time of the OS Grid developers meeting, so he can stand in front of it and point his finger at, and this guy said this, and this other guy said that.
I must admit, I have the OpenSim logo ready. I'm sorry, I haven't got it ready, but that was on my list of things to upload for decoration here. But let's carry on for now.
And then he could say the dark cloud is moving in from this guy over here.
That's right.
Expect storms.
Oh yeah. Well, expect storms moving to a new format of delivering the news. This is really fun. I'm enjoying this a lot. It was real interesting last Tuesday. So again, this is the office hours that the OpenSim developers hold. Anyone can attend. It's at noon on the OS Grid at Wright Plaza, and again, really well attended. And amazingly, there were 5. When you look at the short log of updates to the code, it's done in pages of 15, and there were 5 pages of 15 updates. So it was a lot of updates to code. There was a lot of work going on, and I think this is because we're really close to setting up a release candidate for version 9.1 of OpenSim. So there's been a lot of movement going on. I don't know that it's actually been released yet. It's release candidate 2 is now available for version 9.1. So start of the year, start of new business. A lot of changes are going on in the permissions, particularly as related to God mode for people who are managing grids, and really this brings up a lot of issues about examining the entire permissions model. But they're working on trying to at least solve some of the particular issues related to people having larger permissions to manage the grid. There was a cute little joke about Halcyon in the meeting, and it was very short and it ended very quickly. But there was a little discussion actually about how Halcyon branched from OpenSim, which is at version 0.6, and so there's going to be a lot to examine when that code is available to be examined. Little discussion about memory issues with Mono, but pretty much it's really just all the changes in permissions and getting ready for that release of version 0.9.1. So that's about it. Mal, you there?
Yes, Mal is just unmuting.
All right.
I was getting a bit of echo. I think I haven't set up my headphones on enough. So yeah, another blemish on the show. Right. Well, thank you for that, James. Intriguing stuff. Right. So we're getting really to the end of this news this week. As we said, it was going to be quite a short show. I'm just going to quickly go through a couple of other things that I've noticed here in kind of a news streams and things like that. I like to think we will be covering, incidentally, here social virtual worlds a bit. There was the Silicon Valley VR group had a film up in the week featuring an introduction to high fidelity from Philip Rosedale, who is well known in the Metaverse, of course. That was 3 days ago. You'll find that on YouTube under SVVR. SVVR's account. And at medium.com, there was also a high fidelity tutorial on how to share tilt brush artwork in social VR. Tilt brush, of course, being the thing you can put a helmet on and actually go and paint in 3 dimensions and things like that, and then export whatever on earth you've done in a format that can be used elsewhere, including I gather here in OpenSim. You do the stuff and then you export it and encode it in a format where you can import it. I'm quickly opening a post here, which I think we may be discussing later, basically. It's a post from SL Inquirer, and it's called OS Metaverse: The Encore Escape is having its grand opening kickoff tonight, January 12th. Well, of course, that is well gone, but this isn't the Safari Embassy that Maria mentioned. This is the Encore Entertainment Estate, and they apparently have opened an 81 VAR region here on OpenSim, and they are endeavoring to promote it. Now, this is a very established Second Life entertainment group, and they're advertising 4 live music venues on this this new grid, which I believe is simply called the Encore Escape. That's the name of the grid. Oddly enough, their opening was in Second Life, and the performers included a whole load of people who are familiar performers from Second Life. So I presume at some point they will actually take their 81 regions and actually bring the same folks into the open metaverse. Also on YouTube, there was a film, a Kitely Metaverse tour, featuring a region called Pandora 4. Yeah, that's on my Tumblr feed, but it's also on my likes list at the YouTube channel that you're actually watching this on at the moment. And also a report from modemworld.me, which is an RPA's blog, about Lumia 3.3.1. This is a text-style browser for Android systems. And you can use it for both Second Life, which it was originally built for, but also for OpenSim. And the new release has some extra work done on audio controls and also the ability to communicate in world via a Bluetooth headset as part of the audio business. Yes, the audio business, he calls it. Right, I'm just checking. We do also have a Twitter feed at twitter.com/MetaWorld News, just like this show, but all one word. And various things up there. hgsafari.blogspot.com. This is Thursday Members blog, as opposed to 3 days ago, scripts. And that features highlights of the visit last week of the Hypergrid Safari to the locations it went to. Great fun it was too. And a quick plug for them. If you're interested in traveling to 3 or 4 random places a week in the Metaverse and seeing things in a group, you can join the Hypergrid Safari group. They meet most weeks on Franco Grid. There's a region called, believe it or not, HG Safari. And they dare to take off from there to various grids you're actually given, those locations you're given when you get there. And great fun is had by all as a general rule. On February the 8th, incidentally, the starting region will be the Safari Embassy downstairs here, and on Metaworld Township is the region. And that's actually going to be a special Canadian Safari, not just on the Great Canadian Grid, but going to Pathfinder's grid and another Canadian grid, and it's basically a Canadian day for safaris. So we're also looking forward to that quite a lot. And that seems to be on the Metaworld feed, and let's just check the Google Plus one, which is probably identical. Yes, it looks like it's identical. Also, I'm just going to mention one other thing. Obviously, Robland VR's VR news is up on YouTube. If you want a quick roundup of actual VR stuff and headsets and stuff like that, do check that out. It's sort of tangential to our remit. But also, I downloaded during the week a new browser from the people at Opera, and it's called Opera Neon, and I'm in love. Yep, I really am in love. It's just gone off into, it's technically experimental, but it seems to work fine, and it's gone off into a whole new idea. You open it up, you don't see any tabs or anything. Basically, it takes a copy of your actual desktop and shows you a load of icons on your desktop, although it replaces your real desktop. And these icons lead to your commonly used sites. And if you actually open a site or go to a site, it opens up in a web window. But when you close it, the icon for it is like a tab, goes to the right-hand side of the screen. So any open tabs you've got aren't obstructing you in any way. They've just got little icons and pop up again. And on the left side, it's got various controls for music, for playing videos, and all sorts of things you might want to do on the web. There isn't a button for virtual walls yet, but there's a button for video sound, and snapshots, and all sorts of other things like that. And I just think I'm very pleased that somebody's brought out a boring old web browser that is a departure from the norm. It's not virtual exactly. But it basically just changes your desktop, and instead of showing you tabs and pages until you want them, it simply gives you a nice, neat arrangement, and you feel like you're gliding around your desktop instead of gliding through a web browser. So a real plus point for them. It would be an ideal way to introduce web VR when it comes to have a tab in a browser like that basically allows you to switch from video to pictures, to audio, and then ultimately to spaces themselves. All we need is one more button for VR spaces. Anyway, a little plug for that. Now, that's it for this week's news roundup. Hope you've enjoyed the new format, and hopefully by next week we'll have it a bit more slicker and sorted for you. But it's not the end of the day. We are going to be back very shortly. We'll be on air maybe in 5 or 10 minutes again with our regular program, the Inworld Review, which will be coming to you live on YouTube for the first time, like this, for the first time. She's actually sitting, I think we probably have a camera shot, she's actually sitting in on the stage here watching us do this right now. We have Leslie from Tangle Grid as our guest on the Inworld Review, and the Inworld Review we'll be talking to her, and then we'll be opening that up for general discussion, including probably some of the things we featured in the news today. But for now, thank you for watching, and we will return next week. Goodbye.